right here is for you to, because that's the day and age we live in. Because everyone's watching YouTube and we have TED Talks, etc. And when I first got into this business, there was a specific format. There was the keynote speaker, you know, and it was a very specific format. And you were behind the the podium. And nowadays, that's not the case. You see all different types of speakers. You know, one of my favorite books, and the author's name eludes me, but he's from China, and it's called Rejection Proof. And by the way, just look up the book. It's called Rejection Proof, How to Overcome Fear. And this young man, again, his family was from China. He moved to California, and he did something called the 100-Day Rejection Challenge. And one of the things, and by the way, this ties to stage fright. So he wanted to start his own business, but he was so afraid of actually asking for business. So if you're an entrepreneur, this is a bad combination. Okay? It's not very good. So he decided that every day he would challenge himself to overcome his fear. So for example, one example is he went to a neighborhood he had never been to before, and he decided he was going to knock on the door and he was going to ask that person if he could plant a tree in that person's yard. So he, at the time he was living in Texas, he knocks on this man's door. This, it's a really big guy there who looks kind of rough. And he says, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind if I planted a tree in your backyard?" And the guy looks at him, he says, "No." And he says, and then he was about to walk away, and he decided, well, I need to ask why. Well, why not? He said, well, actually, I have a couple of dogs, and if I put anything in the backyard, the dogs will dig them up. However, my neighbor across the street, Mrs. Smith, she loves plants. Why don't you go over there and tell her I sent you? So he walks across the street, and she says, sure you can. So he actually he plants a tree in a stranger's backyard. And what he learned from that is when someone says no to you, they're not rejecting you. The circumstances may not be right. For example, I've got 2 dogs in the backyard, and this would not be a good idea. Or the timing may not be right. So they're not rejecting you. They're just, maybe it's just a matter of, it's not no, it's just not right now. Does that make sense? Yes. So let's talk about stage fright for a moment. Generally speaking, when's the speaker the most nervous? At the beginning, the middle, or the end of a speech? Generally speaking, when is the speaker the most nervous? Beginning, middle, or end? The beginning. Okay. Generally speaking, when is an audience the most skeptical? The beginning, the middle, or the end of a speech? Beginning. That's a bad combination. Would you agree? Yeah. Okay. So, if you are a speaker, if you have stage fright, what that means is you're more concerned about yourself. You're focused on yourself. The thing I would invite you to do is shift the focus and focus on what is the gift I'm about to give the audience? What is the information I'm about to provide them? How are their lives being enriched? By shifting that focus towards what you're going to give as opposed to what they think about me, that's going to reduce your stage fright. It's not going to eliminate your stage fright. By the way, I believe that stage fright is good. Having a little nervousness is a good thing. Like when I first came in here, especially after they told me I'm not talking for 10 minutes, I'm talking for the entire hour, I had like a lot of stage fright. That was not my plan. But again, I said, okay, I can do this because I give 2-3 day workshops. I can talk. I literally can talk for days. If you don't believe me, just ask my wife. Okay? So shift the focus, and having like a little nervousness is a good thing because that nervousness shows that you care and you're concerned. My 2 worst days on stage ever were the 2 times I had no stage fright whatsoever. I had no nervousness. In fact, I was the exact opposite. The exact opposite is I was overconfident. I was arrogant. I was cocky. Okay? And I'll never forget those 2 days. Those are the 2 of the longest speeches I've ever had in my life because I was not connecting with the audience. And I still remember the beads of sweat rolling down my back because I was overconfident. So a little nervousness, that's a good thing. It shows that you care and that you're concerned. Okay, all right. So I'm going to take stage fright off. Did I answer the issue around stage fright? So just focus on the audience. Reshift the focus. Here's another tip. Memorize your opening and your close. So if you know word for word how you're going to open and how you're going to close, that gives you confidence. If you know how you're going to start and how you're going to end. Again, that also helps you, again, with your confidence. All right? Other questions before we hit the rest of the list?